Well, good evening. Tolle's a new with tonight. We will have a little bit different, but I'm gonna and hopefully worth and just want to look through those questions real quickly as a chance to answer them either in your mind. You can at the those questions. God is welcomed and wanted. We are a spiritually inclusive community who knows that God well Spirit is that true written doctrines or opinions, all of those. We're not a memory bank. We're not some sense of a human iCloud. We are the awareness that thoughts give thanks as well, because that's our ability to recognize when something is not working. Devotion. My sister and I wrote this and have had so many people comment that this is really helping to inspire them in their spiritual practice. Just got back from several people come up and buy 5-6 copies at a time. This has changed my marriage. And so I certainly don't think that my sister and I are saving people's lives, but we maybe together are removing obstacles that keep you from seeing how to save your own life and how to wake up to your own spiritual self and soul. So we're going to jump in. Today is August the 9th. It is the birthday eve of my Pastor Brandon Lee Paulk. She's sitting over there behind the camera. We're going to celebrate. Like Hanukkah. All week we're celebrating Brandy and her birthday. Today is August the 9th. We are in the month of focusing on the beginner's mind. The beginner's mind, meaning you clear out, you empty out, you have more questions than you have answers. You don't embrace things like mastery or promotion through thought processes, but you remain open to what Spirit is saying to you. That's kind of what the beginner's mind means. Today is one of my absolute favorite days of devotion. It is entitled Eating the Question. Eating the Question. Let's grab our prayer of surrender at the very beginning, and then we'll jump into our day of devotion. Spirit of truth, carry me where you will. Bring to me what you will. Take from me what you will. Awaken in me what you will. The Christ man is around me. The Christ mind is in me. The Christ power flows through me, and the Christ mystery exists as me. I believe it, I perceive it, and now I receive it. I am surrendered. Here is our affirmation for today's devotion, Eating the Question. It says, today I will relax into the mystery. I will be at peace with the process of answering questions and questioning answers. I will celebrate truth as a journey and not as a destination. And I will eat the question, knowing it may be my connecting point to a new dimension and a higher elevation. And so the premise of today's devotion really is taken from the story of the children of Israel. They are for 400 years. This is just conjecture, as Brandy would remind me. I opine with this that they might have been building the pyramids. It's a similar time frame, but at least they were in some sort of slave or forced labor while they were in bondage in Egypt. So after this incredible exodus through the leadership of Moses, they find themselves in a wilderness. They're trying to come through a wilderness and into what they call the promised land, or into the land of Canaan, which is also an interesting dynamic, because when you study the Canaanites, that was their land. And so the Israelites took somebody else's land as their land was taken from them. It seems to be kind of the oppressed becomes the oppressor, but that's the troubling of the scriptures that we won't do as much of tonight. So in this wilderness, it's really like a 30-day journey through the wilderness. They end up staying there for 40 years. Every day when they wake up, there are these kind of miraculous provisions made for them. There's this pillar of fire by night. There is a cloud of glory by day that keeps them cool. God causes water to come out of the rock while they are in kind of a desert environment. But every morning, their clothes never wear out for 40 years. Can you imagine? That's an amazing provision. At the same time, imagine being a baby in the wilderness and still wearing baby clothes when you're 40 years old. I guess the clothes just miraculously grew with them. Anyway, the provision that they had for food every morning was something called manna. In the Hebrew, it is the word mon. And that really just means it's defined as whatness, or what is it. And so every morning they ate what is it. That's what it was called. This is the what is it. What is God feeding you with today? God's feeding you what is it? Whatness. In other words, every morning they had to eat a question. They survived in this connecting point between bondage and freedom, if you will, between religion and spirituality. There it is. By eating a question. And so our connecting point from our religious bondage of our past to the spiritual practice of our future is not through answers, it is through eating questions and choosing to eat that question every day. Interesting, on our journey toward liberation, there's a connecting flight, is how we read it, between bondage and freedom. They departed from Egypt, had a layover in the wilderness, and eventually arrived in the promised land. But in order to make it to the promised land, we are forced to eat the question. Look down at the second paragraph. Here's where it becomes a little bit more individualized into our journey. What are the questions? If we must eat the questions to get from the promise into the promised land, what are the questions we are presented with as we connect from one season, one element? Why don't my children respect me? Why am I always disappointed? Do I need more money or more money management? Who is to be blamed? Is it working? Digest. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Are there extraterrestrials? Are we the only planet with life? How old is God? How old is the earth? These are things that are really more science-based, but the questions that matter on our spiritual journey really are more, it's an immersive introspection. Peace and joy. Part in that. The Hebrews, they asked Moses to take them back to Egypt, where they would be in bondage again, but also, isn't that our spiritual journey when we leave the rigidity of doctrine, when we leave the dictates of dogma and catechism and systemized or systematic theologies? There's some level of comfort that we know our way is the only way. Our Bible is the only holy book. Our Savior is the only God-man. Our name for God is the only one to be used. Our understanding, those are very comfortable, egoic, mental constructs but we are still in bondage. So in order to leave that bondage, you may have to eat something that's unfamiliar. You may have to read a different book. You may have to listen to a different teacher. You may have to study a different religion of some sort, or consider life without religion, maybe for a season. And so, in order to get into that promised land, you can't be like the children of Israel and say, hey, we gave it a shot. We don't like this wilderness thing. Just take us back to religious bondage. Keep eating the question. It will finally land you into the promised land of spirituality. Until they, the children of Israel, and we, can eat and digest the questions, we will continue to remain in the wilderness or even back to bondage. This is our journey. Eat the questions or go back to bondage. There it is. Questions are answers in seed form, and they hold the key to our promised land. Eat the question today. Come on, let's grab our closing prayer together tonight for our devotion. Eternal mystery. There's a question there. Thank you for freeing me from the bondage of my past. Strengthen me to walk into freedom. Amen. Via eating the questions. Welcome once again to our Wednesday night study series. We are in week 54 of Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. What an amazing journey it has been so far. Our discussion inspiring. I've learned a lot from them myself, and hope that tonight is no different. If you will, take a moment and look at our description. You can follow along with us, and as we jump into the teaching tonight, come on, let's take a big, deep breath together. As we take and give this breath, we are in the awareness that as we eat the question, we are celebrating the beginner's mind. As we eat the question tonight, we are holding truth as a journey and not as a destination. As we choose to eat the whatness, the what is it, the question tonight, we are celebrating faith as a hearing and not as a heard. We are eating the question tonight by emptying out, celebrating the Zen Bardo space, allowing Spirit to carry us wherever it will. Amen. And so it is. All right, we're going to do just a quick review. Last week, we asked a couple of questions, and I think it's always kind of a good way to get our minds working. Last week, we asked, what does Tolle mean by this statement? Nothing you can find out about yourself is you. Nothing you can know about you is you. And so that kind of led us into an interesting, immersive introspection that the events in our lives are not us. Our memories, our skin color, our gender, our sexual orientation, our religion, our culture, our opinions, our beliefs. None of the things that you can know about you is you. Why? That's knowing about yourself. Knowing yourself is a neutral space of an open field of all possibilities. Why? Because there are no attachments. There's no attachments to memories, past, future, doctrines, opinions, races, cultures, religions, genders, politics. When you really know yourself, you know yourself only as an open field of consciousness, awareness, or it's what we call sometimes the divine observer. Number two, what is the difference between the quantitative you and the qualitative you? Wow. The quantitative you we talked about last week can be measured in career, the things you have, possibly even people's opinions of you, the money that you make, the story that you tell, the number of times that you can say, you remember that time? That's the quantitative you. The qualitative you is more about your essence, more about your natural, your nature of being made in the image and likeness of God or consciousness. Number three, the third question we ask, what content keeps us from knowing our eternal selves? And so similar to question one, the content becomes events in our lives. It becomes beliefs. It becomes thoughts. It becomes all of those things that we think we are is not who we are. What keeps us from knowing our eternal selves is thinking that any of those things are who we are or define us. We are only an open field of awareness. Number four, and finally, what is the difference between the life you have and the life that you are? The life you have is a life of going on family vacations and starting a medical program or finishing college or getting a promotion at work or having Sunday I'll have to do a memorial service for a dear member of ours. That's the life that I have. These are the things that I do. The life that I am is very different than the life that I do or have. The life I am is still in that divine presence, in that observation of knowing you're not the events, you're not the things you do, you are the awareness. All right, that's kind of a review. Tonight we're going to talk about, in week 54, we're going to talk about chaos and higher order. Chaos and higher order. And they're intrinsically connected. Hopefully we'll find or make that connection point tonight. 3 questions that I sent to you, and if you'd like to mull over those questions. Brandy and I were in Europe on my 50th birthday, and we enjoyed some mulled wine. I always thought, is this wine that has been mulled over? Has someone been thinking about this wine? I'm sure it's a different definition with my English vernacular.
It's the same.
It's the simmering, the mulling, the emollients. Yes, all just simmering and mulling over it. That's good, Rainey. Thank you. Yeah, the mulled wine. So mull over the questions tonight, maybe while you're having a glass of wine. And as we go through these, I'll give you some little hints along the way, and I'll show you kind of what Tolle's answers are, and then maybe if you'd like, put your own spin on that as you'd like to apply it to your own life. Here's tonight's questions. Number 1. What is a fragmented perception of the wholeness of life? What is a fragmented perception of the wholeness of life? Question 2. How can we align ourselves with being conscious participants in the unfolding of our higher selves? How can we get into alignment with being conscious participants in the unfolding of our higher selves? Number 3, and finally, in your own life, can you see how new life grows out of rotting and decaying matter? Can you see in your own journey how new life is sometimes the result, or all the time the result, of the rotting and dying things, decaying things that are in your life? All right, we're going to jump in to week 54, Chaos and Higher Order. Welcome once again to Spirit and True Sanctuary. When you know yourself only through content, beliefs, events, memories, race, color, gender, all that's content, you will also think you know what is good or bad for you. Interesting that we're going directly right into the metaphor of the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We're totally just going right in there tonight. Watch this. You think you know what's good or bad for you. You differentiate between events that are good for me and those that are bad. Here it is. Okay, here's question number 1. Here's just a little hint right here. Question 1. This is a fragmented perception of the whole connected, in which every event has its necessary place. So, first question, what is a fragmented perception? It's right there for you to see, and that is that we think that events are good, separate. Now this was negative for me. However, Tolle offers to us that life is all necessary place and function, but also of the ever unfolding fairly regularly. The of our consciousness. Or we will create chaos from created. So things that are helping us to your perception, that's fine. That's not mine. I perceive that we are the creators. The universal law of sowing and reaping, of magnet as above, so below. It is in heaven. Laws. And so what is the universe sending to us? When we create chaos, when we separate ourselves by race or gender or religion or caste, and the lack of peace is the manifestation of that thought, that is, or manifest. Look at the chaos I'm creating. What a gift. It's not bad. It's not good. It is for us to is more than the surface appearance of things, more than the sum total of its parts. Contains. And so that's totally saying, when he's talking about totality, he's not just talking about earth. Journey. He's talking about in the ethos, in the galaxies of creation. That's bigger than even just the human story on earth. Let's keep going. Behind the sometimes seemingly random or even chaotic succession of events in our lives, as well as in the world, lies concealed the unfolding of a higher order and purpose. So what does that mean? There's order hidden in the chaos. Can I say it like this? God didn't speak light. He caused the light to come out, the light out of the darkness. He didn't speak already in the darkness. Way of seeing the universe, one verse, not a multiverse. Positive, negative. They are all working together, and the light is within the darkness. What does that mean? The order is in the chaos. The peace is in the violence. The rest is in the unrest. If we are awake enough to see it and give thanks for it instead of separating it out as separate things. This is a beautifully in its appropriate place. We can never understand this higher order through thinking about it. There it is. Whereas the higher order emanates from the formless realm of consciousness, from universal intelligence. But we can glimpse it. And more than that, okay, here's clue to our brief discussion at the end. Here is the answer to question number 2. Be conscious participants in the unfolding of that higher purpose. So, what is really the answer to this? Okay, so how do we align ourselves with our higher purpose, or with becoming conscious participants in the unfolding of our higher purpose? So, the first way that we can align ourselves is by understanding that we are not separate from that thing. What does that mean? I'm not separate from that which is creating my life. There's not a God out there, and if I pray and seek and fast and beg and wish and starve myself and put on sackcloth and ashes, and if I do all these things and finally all the blessings God's been holding back in abeyance, he or she is going to release all those blessings, just like Santa Claus. If you've been a good boy or a good little girl, going to drop you a present under the religious Christmas tree. No, we are active participants in the creation of our own realities. What does that really mean? The God we are looking for is within. We are conscious participants in the unfolding of our higher purpose. We say at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary that we create in 3 different ways. We create unconsciously, subconsciously, and consciously. Unconscious creativity really shows up. Thing happening to me. Where did this come from? I had nothing to do with it. Unconscious statement. Why is this happening to me again and again and again? Why does the same thing keep happening to me over and over? In that level of sleepwalking, you are not aware that you're creating the thing over and over again in your life. And so you take on a victim mentality, you begin to testing you in somehow, or has you in a crucible with fire on you until God can look down into that silver and see his or her reflection. All these different sermons I've preached and heard people preach over the years that only are clues that we are separate from our own divine creativity. We are the creators of our experience, And God created us that way, created by God, creative like God, and creating as gods. Subconscious creativity, you begin to kind of see. I'm beginning to I thought it, I believed it, I spoke it, I chose it, I created it, and now it's here. And maybe I didn't create it consciously, but I'm aware that when it shows up, it has something to do with me. There is a common denominator in the creation of my life, and it is me. I'm always in drama. If I'm always in confrontations, maybe I've got something to do with this thing. Okay? All right, in conscious creativity, not only are we aware that when something is creating the thing that shows up. So in that conscious mind, as we think, as we speak, as we choose, as we act, as we behave, we are saying, I am conscious because I know it's going to show back up as my life. It's going to manifest as my life. As Dr. Michael Beckwith would enjoin us to consider, glass. We have no hidden secrets, because everyone can look and see what we've been thinking. If our lives are in chaos, disorder, lack of peace, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, so is she. All right, here we go. When we go into our thinking mind will see only disorder and chaos all around us. Brandy and I and Esther walked this morning a little conservation habitat here in Florida, and they've got little kind of, but I was commenting to them that I don't really necessarily like the like in Seattle, Oregon, gorgeous redwood trees. And there's some places in Georgia that I really think are beautiful that I've hiked and walked. Florida, it all looks like underbrush to me. It's just all look like just weeds and just stickers and thorns. And some of it is beautiful. And if you're a Floridian, please don't. Teaching today was dealing with the difference between a manicured garden and an unkept forest, and that there is beauty in that which is untouched. There's a natural. Go into a forest that has not been interfered with by man, our thinking mind will only see disorder and chaos all around us. That's kind of how I felt this morning. It won't even be able to differentiate between life, that which is good, and death, that which we perceive to be bad. There were dead trees all around I've ever seen anymore, since everywhere. Watch this. Here's the other question. So here's a little clue. New life grows out of rotting and decaying matter. All right, so what does that really mean? New life grows out of rotting and decaying. We say as a cliche for the good of those who love God according to his purpose. Yes, but all things work together. What does that mean? In the circle of life, Lion King, when one it feeds, it fertilizes something for the other animals to eat. It is all interconnected, or as the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh would remind us, we all interbe with each other. Well, what about the rotting decay in our own lives? What about the broken relationships and the failed attempts at careers and the terrible choices that we've made? Yeah, all of that is the rotting decay that is producing life, wisdom, a higher ability to navigate your divine creative self. And so in everything, we give thanks. There is always a gratitude available to give thanks for everything, even the rotting and decaying matter in our lives. Only if we are still enough inside and the noise of thinking subsides can we become aware that there is a hidden harmony here, whether it's an unkept forest or whether it's the chaos of your life. There is a hidden harmony, a sacredness, a higher order in which everything has its perfect place and could not be other than what is and the way it is. And so In this kind of sacred harmony, this higher order, there is an interesting reference throughout this entire teaching of the tree of the knowledge. Two different thought progressions this evening. First, in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we know it's spirit and truth, that trees represent truths, and that in the garden metaphor, all of the trees in the garden, which is a teaching on consciousness, not on tending gardens. It is the gardens of our minds, okay? So when we graduate from the absolute literal thought level of progression, we realize in the abstract or in mystic receptivity that the garden story is not about Mesopotamia or Africa or Ethiopia or somewhere in Latin America or Peru or somewhere, Machu Picchu. The garden is our minds. It is consciousness. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is not a tree, it is a choice. The tree of life is not a pear or apple or pomegranate tree. It is also a choice. These are levels of consciousness that these trees represent. Okay, so in this metaphor, we have two different streams that we can attach our thoughts to tonight. First, as an interfaith, there's an interfaith metaphor or teaching here. That the tree of life says to us, all of the other trees are good to eat from. They're pleasant to look at. The only tree that we're not supposed to eat from is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that says the other trees are bad. So how do we relate that? Lemon trees and orange trees? No. The teaching is much higher than that. This is a metaphysical teaching. What is the teaching? That the Islamic tree cannot look at the Christian tree and say, you're infidels. The Christian tree cannot look at the Buddhist or Jewish tree and say, you're unbelievers, you're on the way to hell, you must do it my way. The Hindu tree cannot look at the Sikh or Jainism tree and say, you're not quite on the precepts that we are. That is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so in order to stay in the garden of consciousness, we eat of the tree of life, where we may prefer the Christian tree, we may connect more to the Islamic or Buddhist or Jewish, Judaic tree, but we know that the other trees are not bad. We just may prefer strawberries over oranges. There's nothing wrong with having a preference if it's working for you. But when we begin to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we begin to cast judgment that places us in a binary, that separates us from the rest of mankind and really separates us from ourselves. All right, that's one understanding of the tree of knowledge metaphor that we can find from this teaching tonight. The second one is more individualized. Okay, so when we look at that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we say, this marriage that failed on me was bad. This choice that I made in college was really changed my life for the worse. Or this sickness is evil. And we begin to say, no, it's all connected in its totality. Every mistake has produced wisdom. Every time someone's tried to kill me, it's made me stronger. Every time I failed something, it's been a chance to start over again. Out of the rotting decay of my life, out of the rotting decay and matter in my journey, there is new life that is growing. And so in that way, it is not separate or segregated. It is all interconnected. And so we live not in a binary, but we live in more of a universal understanding of the unfolding of our lives. Look at all that metaphor tonight. All right. The mind is more comfortable in a landscaped park because it has been planned through thought. It has not grown organically. So what is a landscaped park? Religion, politics, education, science, technology. All of these are constructs of humans devising. These are trains of thought. These are philosophies. These are streams of sometimes higher thought, but it is still thought. And they are separated. It's landscaped. It's planned. It's some sort of system. It is not organic. It has now become an organization, if you can kind of feel the difference in that. And so the landscape park for us would represent something like religion, being told what to think. It kind of works, and the salvation and the repentance and the Bible and the worship and the heaven and the hell and the devil. playground and take our children to the sliding board. Yeah, but that's really not how the totality of our lives work. It's not this organized landscape playground. It is this kind of consciousness that if we can step out of the content, the events of it, we can give thanks and say, wow, look at the growth. In all things, give thanks. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, there is an order here that the mind can understand. Yeah, the religion. In the forest, there is an incomprehensible order that to the mind looks like chaos. It is beyond the mental categories of good and bad. Go of thought. Whew! Become still and alert, and don't try to understand or explain it. Only then can you be aware of the sacredness of the forest. So what is the sacredness of the forest, and how do you relate to it? Is not the events in your life, not the chaos in your life. Those are part of the forest. That's some of the decaying matter. What is the sacred nature of the forest? Is it the good thing? Is it the accomplishments in your life? Is it the positive things? Is it the wonderful things you've created? No, that's still content. The sacredness is your awareness when you're in the forest. You're listening, you're hearing, you're seeing, you're sensing. Bipolar experience of separating those things. What is sacred in the forest is that you're aware now. You're awake, you're conscious, you're seeing, you're hearing, you're sensing, and you're without judgment, you're saying, I give thanks for all of the life and all of the death that is all producing something of an awakening on the inside of me. Your conscious life is, watch this, your conscious life is the park or the garden. So your subconscious life is really the forest. I'm kind of connected to only in awareness. But in the park, I'm more connected to the content. I'm more connected to memories and pain or suffering or joy or yeah. So if you can kind of decipher between these two metaphors, the park is not bad. We all need alarm clocks to wake us up. We all need a job. We all need to make money. We all need to eat food and be conscious of our health. We all need shelter and clothing and water and love and connecting. But you are not content. That is the life you have, not the life you are. The life you are is the awareness of those things and that you are not any of those things. I know that's a lot. That's pretty philosophical there. All right, very last paragraph. As soon as you sense that hidden harmony, all of it working together, the sacredness, separate from it. Wow. And when you realize this, that I'm not separate from anything in this forest, you become a conscious participant in it. There's one from the forest of my life. I am now a conscious participant in it. I am creating the things in my life. In this way, nature of life, not just your life, but the wholeness of. So let me run back, and I want you to, as I go through kind of Tolle's answers to the three questions that we had tonight, I want you to kind of reflect upon Tolle's answers and with your own, with what your answers are. And again, there's not so there's no grade being handed out. The only question that we ask in spiritual journey is it working for you? Keep working it. If it's not, don't judge it. Just see it and create something else. Choose differently. Okay. So here's a question. So, what is a fragmented perception? Okay, segregated segments, partials, divisions, departments, if you will. I've heard somebody say that men are like, and so men have trouble with this philosophy. Not all men, because I'm an exceptional male. I'm an uber male. I can think on these levels. All of us, in some ways, we separate our lives. This was my career. This is my married life. Retirement. That's kind of like a waffle. That's a timeline. Seasons. I'm into perception. Teaching tonight. The good and the life. These are the bad things that happened in my life. I want to focus on these and not think about these, but he says the wholeness of life is the forest, not the manicured park, not the golf course, okay? The wholeness of life is the forest. It is the life growing out of the death, and those choose not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Number 2, how can we align ourselves with of our higher selves? How can we align ourselves with being conscious participants in the unfolding of our higher selves? So, and see how these compare with your answers. I become a conscious participant with the unfolding of my higher self when I realize I am a part of this process. It's not devil over there. It's not a prophet. It's not an evangelist. It's not a bishop throwing some mantle on me or some anointing oil or holy water. It's hocus pocus and superstition. Okay, when I realize that I am the good, I am the positive, I am the negative. It is all a part of creating a creative life. And so as a conscious participant, I am co-creating, as Esther Hicks would say. I am co-creating my life with this universe that is the unfolding into our higher selves as divinely creative beings. Number three, in your own life, can you see how new life grows out of rotting and decay? Tolle gives us, he hints around about it, but it was really, I think, interesting in our devotion tonight when we eat the questions that are difficult. Why did my marriage fail? Why are my children disrespectful? Do I need more money or more money management? Why don't people like me? Yeah. Why is there always chaos in my life? Yeah. It's like that, and really listen. Those things. The question of growing out of the bad choices. New life can grow out of the rotting jealousy and revenge and a bloodthirsty God and projecting our religion onto other people. We can only experience the life as we embrace the death, the dying of the religious mind that grows. The childish mind. We want a childlike mind, not a childish mind. Centeredness, rudeness, everything's about me at all times. Okay, the dying of that into kind of more of a melting into the mystery of want to take care of ourselves, but we're also interconnected to all the human family. In this way, question number 3 is really your answer to give. In your own life, can you see how new life grows out of rotting and decaying matter? All things work together for the good. Purpose of what? Spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. No, that's content. That's a lower vibration. What is the purpose? What is our purpose? Called according to God's purpose. The purpose is becoming your higher self. Awakening to the God in and as you. And in that awakening, you don't have to convert anybody, convince anybody. You just become a bearer and bringer of a higher sense of conscious awareness. That's a lot to chew on tonight. I hope you were able to resonate with some of those questions. And so let me give you a little bit of a, not really a confession, but as a kid growing up, we never ever missed church. And when I say we had church all the time. When I was a child, I remember going to church 3 times on Sunday morning. 3. 8:30, 10, 11:30. We had 3 Sunday morning services and then a Sunday night service. Okay, so 4 Sunday services. Monday night youth meeting, that's 5 services. Tuesday morning, spiritual service. Wednesday night, Bible study. Thursday night, choir rehearsal, band rehearsal of some sort. Friday was the only night we didn't have a meeting. So that's already 8 services for the week. My son's looking at me right now like I'm crazy. Saturday was discipleship day. Okay. And actually some on Friday nights we would like go out to football games as the youth group and like witness to people about Jesus. So that's really like 10 worship services. Leave after Sunday morning, after the 3 services. We could never be. Sometimes we would occasionally miss a Sunday night service. We would get together on Tuesday mornings. We would sit together as a family on Wednesday night and have Bible studies. Are we here to chill out, relax, and have church all week? So today, my son and I have been looking forward to playing golf course this afternoon. And so the reason this is pre-recorded, a preacher man father did not want to tell my son our tea time because I cannot miss my Wednesday night teaching. The pain body of being raised by a religious to be with his son. I don't know how long I'll be able to play golf in my lifetime, hopefully for a long time, but I have, Brandy and I never vacation. I've already done the Monday morning devotion. I'm doing the Wednesday night teaching. I will do the Friday devotion. So you can just put that in your pipe and smoke it. We're going to have a good time today, and I know that you guys celebrate that. I love it that you celebrate me spending time with my family and with my kids who are grown adults now. And so we're going to go hit some golf balls. He will kill me today. Fun for me. Part of our devotion. Until then, we want to say happy birthday to my brother Lewis and Al Lee. Pastor Brandy's birthday is tomorrow. She will be 64. Doesn't she look great for 64? Amazingly youthful. And we love you guys. All right, let's read our closing after this teaching. Tonight, I'm willing to recognize dysfunction. If suffering is the normal state of humanity, I do not wish to be normal. If I've created God in my image, I will surrender to the truth that I am made in God's image. I am neither an external physical form nor any internal thought form. I am a spiritual being capable of experiencing physical form and the observing presence, open to considering a diversity of thoughts. My present thoughts, my potential for awakening to self, and as am I, as are you, as are we. We love you guys. Peace. May God bless. We'll see you again